So I think we can all agree that Matt Reeves' version of Batman is definitely a very different take on the character in live action than what we're used to seeing. As someone who was a fan of Pattinson's work in things prior to Batman, I was very excited when he got announced to play the character because I knew the take on the character would be so different, but what I didn't know was just how beautifully the character would be written. When it comes to this version of Batman and people's criticisms for him, we've heard it all from he's too emo to why isn't he a playboy to why didn't he stop the Riddler, which is just a bunch of yap from people who want Batman to be perfect and flawless, but fans, in quotations like that, don't understand that flaws is what makes a character great. So now that the intro is over, let's finally get into the topic of understanding the Bat and the man behind the mask. Most iterations of Batman have him becoming the Bat for a more noble cause. Bruce Wayne, after seeing his parents die in front of him, wants to wage war on crime with the hopes that no child will ever have their family taken from them by crime in the same way Bruce's family was. However, when it comes to Reeves's version, this isn't quite the case. See, while most versions of Batman are very well fueled by vengeance to a certain degree, this Batman is only fueled by rage and vengeance. He is misguided on his mission, holding on to one small thing to excuse his nightly escape, that being his lie that he tells himself and everyone around him, that he is doing this to honor his family's legacy, a delusional belief that we see play out in a way that does not go in his favor. Bruce isn't being Batman for any noble reason. Sure, from an outsider's perspective, it would seem so. He's stopping criminals. But for Bruce, it's not simply about being heroic. It's about having something that he can hit. It's about having an outlet to take his anger out on a world that has caused him so much pain. Bruce is not a selfless man. He's not really doing this for the betterment of Gotham and its people. He's doing this for himself. The tone in his voice at the start of the monologue says it all. Bruce mentions nothing about the lives he's saved or the people he's inspired. He only talks about the criminals of Gotham. He only talks about the bad because that's all he sees in Gotham. Bruce even doubts that his city can even get better. This is a Batman who is devoid of hope. A Batman who is not a hero. He feels pride in the fear that people have for him. So what makes this Bruce so different from the Bruce at the end of the film? The journey. In order to have a good MC that the audience can attract to, your character must go through a journey. Most cases, this would be a journey of self-improvement, with cases including Ken Kaneki from Tokyo Ghoul, Guts from Berserk, Jin Sakai from Ghost of Tsushima, and Thorfinn from Vinland Saga. Each character goes through a journey that helps them improve and become better for not only themselves, but for the people around them. This is the same for Reeves' version of Batman, and while things aren't always in your face, they are still very much there, putting things into motion for a change that feels not only welcome, but natural at the climax of the film. Now let's start with who is arguably the most important person for Bruce's development, that being Selina Kyle. Selina is a criminal. She works for the Iceberg Lounge, a notorious mob hangout. She also breaks into people's homes and steals from them. By Bruce's standards here, she is no different from the man who took his parents, which, yes, does sound very extreme. But keep in mind, Bruce, during this point, sees crime in a very black and white way. You see this because he immediately accuses Selina of killing the mayor when they first meet. In his eyes, she is no different from Joe Chill. It's only after Bruce sees how Selina lives and sees how much she cares for Annika that he starts to realize that crime isn't so black and white, it's just gray. Not every criminal is the same as Chill. Some are just trying to get by in a world that has not only taken everything from them, but has also offered nothing in return. Now, for the final person who helps in Bruce's development, the Riddler. What makes Riddler stand out from your typical villain is that he doesn't actually hate Batman, quite the opposite. He's a fan. He almost worships Batman to a point where he takes up his own mantle to put an end to crime just like his idol does. And while from the audience's perspective, we know Batman would never want anyone to kill in his name, it's Batman's actions that cause someone like the Riddler to become deluded into thinking it's what Bruce would really want. One of my personal favorite scenes, minus the car chase scene of course, is the scene in Arkham between Bruce and Eddie. Both orphan children wanting to inflict pain on a world that has been nothing but cold toward them. In this specific scene, Riddler is talking to Batman as if he's reporting back to a partner, like they were in on some big elaborate plan together. Riddler used his brains, while Batman used his bronze to make sure that the plans come to fruition. But when Bruce calls Riddler insane, he feels rejected. From his perspective, this is what Batman wanted. He feels betrayed. But what does Bruce feel from his own perspective? Denial. Bruce can't accept that all of this madness was inspired by him. He can't believe this. He almost can't accept the blame, and he wouldn't have, if not for a few key moments that happened during this film. Those key moments being the funeral scene between him and Bella, where Bella tells Bruce that he could be doing more for Gotham. And while yes, from Bella's point of view, this means as Bruce Wayne, donating and funding projects for the betterment of Gotham City, but from a larger point of view, this also applies to him being Batman. The next one, renewal is a lie. During this, Riddler outs Thomas Wayne for having connections to crime, the same crime that is responsible for breeding the type of man like Joe Chill, who took Bruce's family away from him. But how could this be true? How could Bruce's father, a man who Bruce has looked up to his whole life, be close with a man like Falcone? Everything that Bruce has done in the name of his family's legacy is now tainted. His defense has now turned into an excuse that he can no longer hide behind. Thankfully, Alfred assures Bruce that his father was never truly close to Falcone. He had only made a mistake. This, however, doesn't mean that his family's legacy is fixed, and in fact, I can see this being a main plot point in the sequel. Now for the final piece of the puzzle that puts the entire picture together nicely, the Flood. Bruce has finally seen in full force what he's inspired as Batman, and what he's inspired is not something heroic, but it's instead chaos and pain being unleashed on innocence. This isn't something a hero would inspire. Up until this point of Bruce falling into the water, he is no hero. Now, time for the transformation that is in your face, which is Bruce falling into the water. Religious themes are commonly used in a lot of media. Some, like Star Wars, take a lot of themes from Christianity, like Anakin being similar to the fallen angel Lucifer. And this scene is no different. This scene works as a baptism for Bruce, signifying a rebirth, leaving a life devoid of hope and full of rage behind, only to emerge as a new man with hope in his heart. Bruce's two inner monologues from the start of the film to the end contrast each other beautifully. The first is by a man who only cares about causing pain, and the second is by someone unrecognizable, a person who has seen the flaws in his ways, and instead of running from them, he's faced them head on, and he is now ready to take on what comes next. But he won't be taking it on with vengeance in his heart. Instead, that has now been replaced with a sense of hope. Not only a hope that will soon inspire others in a new light, but a personal hope for his mission. One that now has a clear path ahead, set in stone, and he is now ready to walk it. Jokes aside, because I prefer to keep videos on here more formal, especially since it's longer form, and these are serious discussions, I know I tend to glaze the ever-living hell out of this film, but please understand that I deeply care for this character, and it feels to me that it's very rare from a writing perspective that this character is done so well in media like live action. If you made it this far, please consider subbing and maybe leaving a comment about how this video made you feel. I hope everyone has a safe and wonderful day.